How's it going, beautiful people of Facebook? Once again, this is Jose Trujillo, and I'm gonna do an awesome little demo. Sorry about the shaking of the camera there. I'll do a little demo with my Starbucks at hand. I'm gonna do a little demo here, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's paint something simple. Simple keeps it awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna do an apple, because painting is it's a interesting little thing. Painting is let's do two apples, not just one, because I think it'd be better if they're partners. It's an interesting little thing to paint. It has I've been trying to put my finger on it, right? My finger on it. Because there's days that I'm like, oh man, that's great. And then there's days like, I'm like, oh, whoa, what was that? But I still enjoy it all as days go by and everything. I mean, I love both of them, both good or bad, not, whatever I consider that moment. So I've noticed that it's a very interesting dance to paint. Painting is an interesting dance, let's put it that way. There is, for me, right, I don't know for everybody of course, but for me, there's this thing that you want to be so engaged that it's almost like you gotta be so observant of what's going on. But at the same time, you can't care about it that much. So it's a very interesting thing. It's sort of it's paradoxical, actually. You want to be so interested, the observation, it's got to be so high end, let's put it that way. But you must not want, hi Nancy, good to see you too. You must not want anything out of it. And I know it's a very, very interesting, almost crazy concept. But it is what it is. For me, I don't know for other people, but it's one of these things that you kind of discover your own thing. By the way, I don't think that this is just my thing. I think that this is just painting in general. But people see it differently, in different. They understand it differently. Let's put it that way. But for me, that's what it is. It's something that you have to be so highly engaged in it, but you can't want anything out of it. And it's a fight. It can be a fight. It doesn't have to be, but it's sort of a fight because the mind wants to be able to control what is happening. The mind is sort of fighting it. The mind wants to control what's happening. The mind doesn't want to let go. It's, in other words, is resisting. Just observing. The mind resists the act of observation. The mind wants to think about it. It wants to say, oh, here's this red, there's this red. But I'm telling you, when I'm most engaged, when I'm painting, I know that I'm painting, I am not thinking about colors. It's sort of an autopilot, but I know it's not an autopilot. It only feels that way, or it only looks that way, but it's an intense attention. And that's been my story. That's been my like Monet said, it's my joy and my struggle. It's not a struggle in itself. It's a struggle to get to that point many times because you're sort of having a pull, a tug and pull with your mind. So and it comes down to trusting your instincts, because your instincts know best, especially once you've already practiced enough. I mean, there's no such thing as practice enough, but there's such thing as practice enough where you can now move forward without conceptualizing every step of the way. You don't have to conceptualize every step of the way. You don't have to, some people, they've been painting for years and years, and they say, oh, I flip the painting around to see if it, or I'll do stuff like this, or I step back, and then I wait, and then I look at it, and then I go back, and those are things that just make no sense. Like, I understand in the beginning when we're applying those things, but after we've been painting for so long, or for whatever period of time, but that you are proficient at it, all those things just for me are stoppers. They really just serve us as stoppers, and it's just the way I see it for me. I don't know for other people, of course, but that's what I realized, that it's sort of it's a meditation practice. It's just I don't like to call it that because people sometimes get sensitive because of religious or spiritual beliefs, but it really is a practice to learn to calm the mind, and it's very, for me it's very spiritual, because I know that my mind wants to be racing, my mind wants to control. I want to be able to, yes, I did that, and I did it because I intellectually came up with it, and the mind wants to do that. The mind is a master at doing that, but it doesn't want to let go. And it's my belief that, for me, right, again, I'll keep saying for me, the painting is an act of letting go. Hi Nancy. I'm actually using oil paint, and I've been in a habit of painting with the side of the brush for I don't know, probably like a year now, months. Usually I used to paint like this, right? But my wrists, because I tend to paint a lot, my wrists are getting kind of tired. So I started doing this. This approach is a lot of what the plein air painters do, and I can understand why they do that, because they're standing as they're painting, many of them. So it's very comfortable to paint this way, to paint with the side of the brush. Also, another thing that it helps me a lot with painting with the side of the brush is that you don't have to lift the brush. So yeah, you're painting, you don't have to lift it all the time in order to do this, in order to colorize, right, the canvas. What I do is I'll be painting, and then I'll keep it on the canvas and just kind of move, and I'm not really interested in I'm looking for tone, and shape comes last, okay? Shape comes last. I'm looking for tone. I'm looking for the color. I'm looking, many, as a matter of fact, not even the color, not even that. I'm looking for the tone more than the color. The color is kind of like, it's also, it's there, I think about it, but I don't really, it's not that important as the tone. The tone is more important for me. And I know that wasn't the question, but I wanted to add a little bit of that. Some people have asked me, there are my juicy apples. So it's just, it's the last thing for me is the shape. If I start painting the shape first, that's why you guys see me kind of doing a little doodle first, to just kind of get the positioning, right? But if I concentrate on the shape, then I can't really paint, because now I'm looking for lines, and I'm looking for all this, what do you call it? all these parameters and all these things that are these guidelines And as I'm painting, I don't want any guidelines. I want it to fully be intuitive, because it is the only way that my little heart rests. If it's intuitive, if it's not intuitive, I really don't want anything to do with it. I have to paint in order to get. I have to paint not intuitive in order to get to that point of that intuition. But it's the first paintings of my day, or the first couple of hours, 3-4 hours of my day painting in my studio are many times very painful because I'm trying to get in the zone, and that's something that I've been learning lately. Look, at the end, I care about the outline. You know, I don't always do this, but if it feels right, I'll do it. The outline for me, it's something at the very end. It's something that it's not. You're welcome. It's oil. It's just that I love using plenty of medium in order to have a more fluid approach. A consistency. The consistency of the paint is very important for me. I used to paint with very dry paint, and because I like to keep a flow, it doesn't work for me anymore to paint very dry. I don't know, never say never, like Justin Bieber says. but for the time being, it doesn't help my vision for what I want. So that the color is important, but one of the things that I notice is that if we start concentrating on the color, we lose sense of the tone. And I feel like the tone is the most important part in a painting, I believe. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but at least for me, in my case, tone is everything. And I'm not talking about just values, I'm talking about the dance of the color without really thinking of red or yellow, or you're just kind of playing with the whole thing. You're playing with values, and you're playing with all of the tones, the warms, the how cold or how warm the colors are, and you're just kind of it's a dance. Some people call it poetry when you're painting like that. It's a dance. It's very intuitive, and I try to keep it. Very, very simple for that reason. It's how I get to accomplish that. And then, I'm right now at this point, I'm kind of overworking it just because, But usually I don't overwork it that much. Usually I know when for the most part, right, when I'm in the zone especially, I know where to stop. Where I've gotten the experience or the impression out of it, and then I know that, that's good right there. Let's stop. You'll notice that if you keep lifting the brush, this is what I see with many artists. If you keep lifting the brush, you may lose momentum. You may lose the flow. So that's one of the reasons I like when I paint. I don't mind if I'm using the same color or maybe even a dirty color, in order to keep moving. Because as you keep moving, you're carving that flow. And things, it's like Degas said, only when one does not know what he's doing is when he does good things. I could not agree more with that statement by Edgar Degas, the ballerina guy. Those are some interesting words from someone who was very, very, very much into academic painting. He didn't even saw himself as an impressionist. Hi Neil, great work. Do you ever do paintings of the side of the canvas? I don't understand, like the profile of the canvas, like this stuff right here. Is that what you're meaning? What you're trying to say, Neil? Like if I wrap around the canvas with the paint. If that's the question, no, I don't do that. Sometimes I've done it, but it's more for decorative. When I work with interior designers, they tend to kind of like, some of them tend to like that, or you know, little things like that. But no, I just paint that because I'm thinking it's gonna be framed. Oh, awesome! I'm glad I touched on that. Yeah, I don't paint the sides. Usually I work with canvas boards and masonite, different stuff. Let me try to bring something. So usually I work with canvas boards like this. You know, these are some of the ones I work with. I work with everything, but for the most part, for my smaller work, I tend to use these ones. And then I'll use some masonite also. You know, this is double primed masonite. I go with stuff like this for just when I want to go when I want to get goofy with sizes and different just different sizes. I don't really care much about the surface of it. It's more I can cut my own sizes, you know. But when I paint on stretch canvas, no, I just leave it like that, and that's pretty much that. So. This piece is a little overworked, guys, just because I've extended. Know, please, that I don't overwork my work. I don't overwork my work like this. I don't try to find something to please me. If I want it to please me, it's my belief I'm already doing something wrong. So I tend not to go for trying to get it to please me. That's a great question, Nancy. Nancy asks, how long does it take to dry? These paintings usually take about anywhere from probably 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the climate. Oil depends a lot on climate, on the weather. So if you're in a place like me, and like in Arizona, it shouldn't take more than a couple of weeks to dry to the touch. And other colder places, the colder it is, the longer it takes to dry. That's usually the rule of thumb. So yeah, about 2 to 3 weeks. Thank you so much, Neil. So that's it, guys. I want to do I don't want to do. I'm going to do a series where you ask the artist, and I'm going to call it that. You know, ask the artist. So I'll have different, get your questions ready, because I will be doing a whole series on, I'm going to start some on Facebook, but I'm on Facebook Live, but I'm also going to be doing some on YouTube, and to kind of just share them with more people. I don't varnish. Nancy, that's a great question. I don't varnish. One of the reasons I don't varnish is because I tend to get my work out quick. And varnishing, I know a lot of artists like to varnish it even though it's only dry to the touch. I tend not to, because sometimes that plays with the paint. Usually varnishing takes you should varnish once the painting is cured. Cured is a whole other thing than dry. Dry to the touch is just that when you touch it, it's dry, but cured is that it dries from the inside out. When it's dried from the inside out. So that takes months, usually about 3 months. Some people say 6, but usually about 3 months, and then you can varnish it. You can do a clear coat. It doesn't happen, nothing bad happens if you varnish it once it's dried to the touch. Sometimes because the paint is it might create a film. Well, it does create a film. So it might dry and leave little ripples here and there and stuff like that. Some people really care about that, especially when they're doing hyper-realistic work or work that is very fanned. You know, the brush is very polished. You don't see brush marks. If you're doing stuff like me, it doesn't really matter that much if it's kind of dry. You can test it. I don't varnish them just because it's not it's just not how I do things. I prefer to wait, and the collectors, the people that collect my work, they know that too, and you know, they wait a bit to have it varnished. But also some people don't like the varnished work for some reason. Some people are still afraid that varnishing is going to yellow the painting. It does in some cases, depending on the type of varnish you use. But that takes years and years for that to ever happen. You know, the whole yellowing thing, and that's not really something that it's a concern. I know some people are concerned with that, but it's not. I just, based on my experience, I know it's not a big concern. But I will be making these videos for questions. Please, guys, have your questions ready. Write them down. If you guys want to know some of the stuff that I don't know, whatever you want to ask me about my process and things that I'm doing, or any, from hanging a painting to whatever, ask the artist. That's what the series is going to be called. And I'll leave you guys with that. I'm going to be posting this also on YouTube. If you haven't checked out my YouTube, go check it out. It's just go to YouTube and type in Jose Trujillo Artist, and I have over 700 videos. I think 800 now. Very, very informative and fun also, because I'm fun like that. I'm cool. So you guys can have a lot of fun watching those. Take care, and I hope you guys really enjoy this session. There are my couple of apples. So that's just how I do it. This is how messy it gets when I do it. I like it messy. I know I'm doing something right when it's messy. Take care, guys. Till next time. Bye-bye.